It's amazing to think that in the mid-1950s, we were paying the equivalent of over 2,000 modern-day US dollars for relatively small, black and white TVs that required you to fight with a finicky antenna. And just 60 years later, you can have an incredibly high-res, lightweight device that sits on your desk for a tenth of that price. So given how quickly the industry has progressed, it's kind of surprising that one of the best display technologies out there today hasn't yet made its way to our gaming battle stations. I'm talking, of course, about OLED screens, which are common in both televisions and smartphones thanks to their incredibly good color reproduction, deep blacks, and high contrast. So consider this. There are plenty of big TVs and tiny phones with OLED screens, so why can't we figure out how to put them into medium-sized computer monitors? I mean, you could argue that having accurate contrast is even more important for PCs than it is for TVs and smartphones because A, professional color work is done on PCs, and B, OLED has extremely fast response times, which is super important for competitive gamers who've got to frag lots of noobs in a small amount of time. So the challenge is actually twofold. One aspect of the issue has to do with how the technology itself would be used on desktops, and the other has to do with how OLEDs are actually put together. Although OLED delivers a picture that's generally far superior to the LED backlit displays commonly built for desktop and laptop PCs, they tend to have a much shorter lifespan. The organic materials that allow the pixels in an OLED display to generate their own light simply don't last as long as the backlights in a more run-of-the-mill LED screen. More specifically, blue subpixels tend to burn out much more quickly than red or green ones due to their chemical makeup. So after about 14,000 hours, blue OLED subpixels will only be about half as bright as they originally were. The red and green subpixels degrade much more slowly, leading to your monitor displaying some very funky looking colors. And not the good kind of funky. And while this is also true for phone displays and TVs, consumers tend to not leave those gadgets on all the time. Most phones shut their screens off automatically when not in use for more than about a minute, and unless you're running a bar or hotel where the TV is perma-tuned to a news or sports channel, you typically turn it off after a few hours at most. Hopefully. This isn't the case with computer monitors, as they tend to be just left on for much longer periods of time, which would hasten the death of those OLED pixels. The fact that we leave our monitors on for such a long time also leads straight to the other practical challenge: burn-in. OLEDs are much more susceptible to residual image burn-in than standard LED backlit displays, and on a computer screen which often shows the same desktop wallpaper and UI elements such as a taskbar, users could be left with some very ugly visual artifacts whenever they want to play a game or simply fire up a web browser, for goodness sake. But even if consumers were careful to use screensavers and turn off their monitors as soon as they're done using them, it isn't just user behavior that's kept OLED screens off of our desktops. The manufacturing process has also kept OLED primarily in the realm of TVs instead of PCs because manufacturing defects are much more common in OLED screens compared to other types of displays, making them more expensive to produce. OLED technology is still common on phones because manufacturers can stomach the cost of a small screen being defective, and even on large TVs, OLED makers can still make a sizable profit because sales of TVs tend to dwarf sales of monitors. That has left OLED computer monitors in a bit of a weird space. It doesn't make much sense for companies to start cranking them out in huge numbers just for them not to sell as well as TVs, in addition to having to deal with widespread consumer dissatisfaction because people just decided to leave their monitors turned on all the time. But this doesn't mean those of you who want a nice looking OLED monitor should lose hope. Not only are there now a few OLED monitors and laptops on the market, albeit at higher prices, but the industry is working on finding ways to increase manufacturing efficiency and OLED longevity, including everything from printing the pixels onto a substrate, inkjet style, to using slightly different molecules to produce light and color. Hopefully in the near future, this great piece of tech will find its way onto desktops around the globe. But if it doesn't happen, nothing's stopping you from just plugging your 60-inch OLED TV into your computer and kicking back. Except maybe your desk size. Today's video is brought to you by the Drop and Sennheiser HG6XX headphones. These cans are one of Drop's best sellers with over 60,000 sold. With the same driver as the HD650, the HD6XX delivers balanced mids and natural sounding bass. Community feedback led Drop and Sennheiser to add a 6-foot detachable cable instead of the original 10-foot one, and the headphones come with Sennheiser's dependable long-term support. Get yours today by joining the Drop at the link below. Alright, thanks for watching this video, guys. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, check out our other videos, comment below with video suggestions, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more TechWiki videos just like this one, except about something different.